All right. So I'm with Grace Broderick, and we are in the Japanese Garden in Hyde Park, Chicago. Good to have you here.
It's so nice to be back. It's nice to be here in person with you.
Yeah, the last time we recorded, you were in Bristol, England.
I was in Bristol. I was on Zoom. Yeah.
And I was in my apartment on Zoom. Now today, this is a beautiful setting. Is there a name for this area?
This is the Japanese Garden. It's in Jackson Park, which is right behind the Science and Industry.
Yeah. And it's a kind of an overcast day, kind of cool, a little windy. Hopefully our mics are okay.
Yeah, well, Windy City.
We were going to record yesterday, and yesterday was 100 degrees and sunny.
Yep.
And then Grace was like, hey, what do you think about moving it another day so that we're not recording in the heat? And I was like, that's a great idea.
Thank God.
Very smart. That's very smart individual here.
A very sweaty individual.
Yeah, this is a cool spot. It's very relaxing. I hope listeners and viewers can hear the lovely waterfall in the background.
Oh, it's great here.
So you're from Hyde Park.
I am, yep. I went to the University of Chicago High School over here, lab school, which is in Hyde Park, and I've lived here for 23 years now. Yep.
And so you're in England, but now you're back for a little bit.
Yes.
I went to England, and I was like, hey, what are you up to? And she's like, actually, I'm in Chicago.
I just missed you. I feel like it was a week off or something like that.
Yeah, so now you were in Bristol, and now
Yes.
you're in Cambridge.
I am, yep. I finished up my master's at Bristol, so I graduated in February, and then I start my PhD at Cambridge in October 1st.
Okay, so what are you getting your doctorate in?
It's in earth sciences, but more specifically, I'm doing paleontology. So I'm studying ancient birds right now. Yeah.
And so, my bad. I got here. I took a wrong path, but it gave you some extra time to bird watch.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yep.
Which you have a spectacular eye for it and are very knowledgeable about. Right when I come in, you're like, hey, check out that bird. It came from Central and South America.
Yep.
And then it's gonna go back in the winter.
Absolutely. This is one of the best birding spots actually in Chicago. Is this whole like Jackson Park wooded isle area, which is just kind of amazing in an urban city that there's such a diverse array of wildlife around us.
It's really relaxing.
Yes.
What's that bird over there? That big one?
That is a great blue heron, and it's pretty great. Lives up to the name.
What's the difference between a great blue heron and a blue heron?
I don't know if there is a blue heron. Oh, well, there's other herons. There's a little blue heron. I've seen one in the south in Georgia. They're just smaller. I think people just like adding great to a lot of birds' names. There's a great white egret. We saw one earlier. There was a great white egret again, but there's not really a lame white egret.
Great is one of those overused terms, I feel like.
Yes, it is. But everyone just calls it a blue heron. And in the UK, we have some... Oh, there's a fish, too. In the UK, we have some that are very similar, but they're the grey heron. But they're essentially the same, just the European version.
Yeah. I feel relaxed here, yeah. This has always been on my spot in Chicago, like Chicago hidden gems. And
absolutely is.
I've been here for so long, and this is... like the second week in a row that I've gone somewhere like hidden gems or places that have been on my personal kind of bucket list.
Where'd you go last time then?
I went to the Three Arts Club Cafe in the like restoration building.
Oh, there,
in,
yeah.
Gold
My mom
Coast.
loves to go there. It's fantastic, yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And so this is kind of like, I'm like checking off
Yes, absolutely.
hidden gems. I'm like,
here
it's
it
summer. I should do some things.
Oh, he scared away the little black-crowned night heron. But...
And then there's this big koi that was here earlier, right?
I got a lot of them right there.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple.
I don't know if the cameras can pick them up, but that would be pretty cool.
They are orange and they are large. Now,
yeah.
So it's been a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time we talked, we were talking about paleobiology. We're talking about dinosaurs and all types of good things. And you had mentioned you were going to go to Africa.
Yes.
To do a dig.
Yep.
Do you want to share that experience?
Sure. It was unreal, and as events are unfolding currently. It's probably once in a lifetime now. So I went to the country of Niger for 1 month on a dig. Currently, Niger is under a lot of political stress right now. The embassies, the American embassies and other embassies have already left the country because it's under such duress. So I don't foresee us ever going back to Niger again. At least myself, unfortunately. I would love to. It was an incredible experience. The people could not be like happier and kinder. And it was just one of the experiences of a lifetime. It was a dinosaur dig for all ages.
So it's not only you had this experience doing your work and being out there in the field and learning, studying, researching.
Yeah.
You have that experience, but then you also have, now the political stuff that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
So it kind of adds this like extra second layer of it that
it really does, because I know this is a location that my boss who took me here to Niger on this dig, he's been going there for 25 plus years, and we've gotten so much material out of there. He's in the works of building a museum there to bring all the dinosaur bones back so that they all go home. And he was in the process of making this incredible museum that would house them all, and it could become a beautiful like tourist attraction for the country. Yeah. And I don't know where that's going to go now that, well, the American embassy has left and it's in such turmoil. But hopefully it'll get back to where it was. But I don't know. Right now it's a little dubious.
So you said the Russian government.
That's my understanding. Yeah, okay. It was a democratic country, and now it's been taken over by an opposing force, and it's being starved. It was being starved out to get them out of there, and yeah, it's just too bad. I don't know what his plans are right now then, but it's just sad because the people there were just so wonderful. It's sad to think that they're going through such stress. Yeah, but the dig itself was unreal in its own right. It was 130 degrees outside every day, middle of the Sahara, sun. Yeah. Okay,
so separating the political aspect with the paleontology. Well, so you had told me that, and I did not know that. Is that something I don't spend a lot of time trying to keep up with the news.
Totally.
Is that in the news, or
It is. It was in the news maybe about a month ago, and it only caught my eye because I've never seen this very quiet country of Niger in the news before. I only knew about it because I do all this dinosaur work there, but if I hadn't, there would really be no reason that I would have necessarily heard of Niger. A lot of people I talk to when I say I went to Niger, they're like, do you mean Nigeria? I'm like, no, the one right next to it. But yeah, it's only because I sort of caught a glimpse of it in the headlines in the world news sections and whatnot. It's like, oh my gosh, that
seems like a pretty big thing though.
It does, but it was in the news for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, and I also am not always the most current, but this caught my eye and I want to follow it as well as I can. Even though I haven't since I'm on vacation now. But
so we're talking about time and things that are contemporary, happening quickly. Some things that happen slowly are fossils in the ground.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Very, very
Okay,
slow.
so take me back.
Yeah.
You're there on a dig for a month.
Yes.
What is kind of you get there, what's the daily process like?
Well, we flew into Niamey, which is the capital, and then we took a plane ride to Agadez on the further west in the country, just toward the middle of the Sahara. And then from there, we would drive about 3 hours out to our dig site, and we camped there for the entire month. And it was just camping. It was hot. It was dust storms.
Okay, so how do you get 3 hours?
We're in.
Well, logistically.
No, it's a drive. It's just a drive, but boy, it's a drive in these rickety old Land Rovers that my boss Paul has had since probably the 90s and have just been fixed up. I mean, if you looked into the engines, I'm not much of a car girl. I don't know anything about that, but I know when you open the engines, there shouldn't be duct tape everywhere. And that's how these things are being kept together.
So what happens hypothetically if you're in the middle of the desert and something happens to
I know.
people?
Luckily, we had a team of a number of people from Niger to help us.
Yeah.
Plus, every person had 2 military guards. So we actually had about 70 military people with us in their trucks with their machine guns and stuff. And they all came out with us to wherever we were going. And this was because of some previous experiences that my boss had in Niger with bandits. So it wasn't for any terrorist fears, anything like that. It's the middle of the Sahara, and if someone's coming through with a bunch of water and a bunch of really great materials, we're easy pickings. But not anymore, because we had about 70 guards with us who, again, could not be more like sweet and excited to be there. They'd come by the dig site and be like, "Are you digging up dragons?" And we're like, "Basically, yeah."
That's amazing.
Pretty much.
Okay, so you get to the one. How do you know that there are fossils at the site you're going to if it's in the middle of the desert?
Well, one thing that my boss does is he employs people of that region, so they could be nomads there. And as we were out there was actually every now and then we'd see a camel go by with a few people, and people just sort of walking by, and you're kind of like, where did they come from and where are they going, because they're in the middle of nowhere. But there is traffic in terms of nomads out there. And he has people that in Niger that he work for him, and they kind of go out on their motorbikes, and he's taught them what to look for, because the thing about the Sahara is it's always being weathered down with the sand and everything. So bones are constantly coming back to the surface. So all they have to do is kind of walk out. Paul's told them what to look for. They go out and they say, "Hey, I think there's something here." Send some pictures back to Paul, and he says, "I'll be there in a year," something like that. Mark it and I'll be there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then you get to the site. You say camp. Mm-hmm. What is a camp?
It's a tent
site look like?
It's tents. It's pitching tents. It's pitching up big tents where we had our kitchens and our sort of tech tents, and we brought out, let me think, 5,000 liter gallon sort of, I don't know, jugs. Jug isn't even the right word, since they had their own car for them, because that was our water for the time being. Luckily, where we were, since it was only a 3-hour drive back to the city of Agadez, if we needed anything, we could send one of the people of Niger back, because he had a pickup truck, so he could go back and get something if we desperately needed it, which didn't happen. The only thing that really happened was he went and came back with beers, which was very nice. But very essential. But so.
Okay, so in the morning, you guys wake up. You guys have breakfast.
Yep, we wake up. We wake up at about 6, except all of the guards would get up at about 5 and start playing music, so we all ended up getting up at 5.
Nice.
And we'd head out to the field pretty early, so it wouldn't be too hot, so we'd head out maybe 7:30, something like that. And we'd work till about 6:30, that's when the sun would go down. And our campsite was really only... We were camping very close to where we were digging, so we'd take our little Land Rovers and drive for 2 minutes to the dig site. And so, it was pretty easy on that front. So then it was just a day of work.
You get back at 6. What do you do from 6 till you go to bed?
We eat. It's a lot, I was with a lot of people I'd never met before, so it was really nice to just get to know people and make friends and swap stories. Most of the team was from Spain, so it was very, very cool to meet so many people and make new connections there. And of course, I have a lot of old friends that I've been working with for 10 years as well, so it's always nice to see them. Honestly, I know some of them, like some of the Spanish, were staying up really late. With how much work we were doing, I think I was in bed at like 8:30 every night to get up at 5. I was just so tired.
The sun too, you're out in the sun too?
Yeah, the sun was brutal. We all have our hats and stuff, and we're all wearing long sleeves. That's the name of the game out there. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yep. Yeah, and of course the nights were nice and cool, so it was perfect sleeping weather.
What kind of tech is it? Was it like, are you guys unplugged essentially, or
essentially
you guys have communication back?
We have some. Surprisingly, I had like 4G out there, which
Nice.
was really, really surprising. I told my family goodbye for a month. I'll never
Yeah.
talk to you. I won't be talking to you at all. Then I was like, oh, actually, hi. But we brought a lot of portable generators, so we could work machines like small and big jackhammers and whatnot, because those are needed to at least get all this rock around the bones out. Once we get down to the bones, then it's pickaxes, chisels, brushes.
So what kind of fossils are you digging up there?
So out there we're digging, the one that I was at, so the month that I was there, we were digging up sauropods, which are the big long neck ones.
yeah.
Yep. They're kind of a new species, so we're not exactly sure what it is, but it's some new sauropod out there.
Now, is Africa the next frontier of exploration for paleontology?
Oh, it's always been, really. My boss has been in Africa for a very long time, and bones have been coming out of Africa since the 30s at least, probably even earlier, since we started really learning about dinosaurs. Yeah, it's every continent really has its specialties with dinosaurs. Like America, as we know, has some incredible dinosaurs out west. And a lot of Africa also does too. And then China has its own, Asia in general, but China specifically, they're kind of famous. Yeah, they're famous for the small, beautiful birds that come out from the end of the Mesozoic era. So like between 65 million to like 100 million years ago. They're famous for these beautifully preserved birds, which you can't find in like Africa and America. Just the preservation isn't the same. It's not as good.
Yeah.
But because birds are so fragile that they don't fossilize very often. But China, for example, is a place where they really somehow did. It was the right conditions. So every continent really has its dinosaurs.
Do you think there's an area on a continent where we're going to find even grander
Oh, I don't
fossils?
know if they're.
Or are we like tapped out?
Oh, definitely not tapped out.
Okay.
But if we are, it probably would be Africa, because with the erosion from the sand, depending where you're looking.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Yeah.
With the erosion from the sand, we leave it for 50 years, come back, new things will have risen to the surface for sure. So yeah, Africa will always be producing. South America has some fantastic, massive dinosaurs. Those are where the biggest sauropods, like I think there was a big exhibit, Titanosaur was from, and all those kind of guys. Yep. I'd love to do work in South America, except these days I would be going for the live birds, not the big dead lizards, reptiles.
Yeah, you have the word great curiosity for birds.
I do, and it's been a lot of fun actually intersecting my love of birds with dinosaurs, and it's been perfect. That's what I'm doing for my PhD.
There's quite a connection.
There is, and I never really thought about it too hard. Birds are descendants of dinosaurs. Birds technically are dinosaurs. They're just descended from them, in the same way that we descended from apes. Except, of course, we still have apes that are around today. The difference is birds don't have their relatives, the dinosaurs, with us anymore. Yeah, and when I was growing up, I was a dinosaur girl all the way. I wanted to do the big scaly ones. I wanted to dig up the biggest, baddest ones I could find, and that's what I wanted to study. I wanted to study them, and just because they are fascinating beyond belief. But then I got into birds in 2020 thanks to I may have said this on my last one, but thanks to an ornithology class I took for fun, honestly as a joke. Like, my friends and I were not into birds. We were like, this guy's doing a bird class. Wouldn't it be funny if we took it? It could be. We got an extra elective. Why don't we just do it for fun? Yeah. We couldn't care less about birds going into that class, but the professor was so passionate about it. And every week we went on bird walks. Instead of class, we'd go for a bird walk and learn about the birds around us. And we were like, this was actually so cool. So then it was kind of easy to say, okay, I want to do dinosaurs, yes, but I want to switch it to ancient dinosaurs in the forms of birds. And there are so many of them, and they're beautiful, they're feathered, they look almost like birds today. Almost, not quite, but...
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, but
That's
they're still
awesome.
65 to 100 million years old.
So what do you think is the value of the studying the ancient birds and its value in connecting it to today?
Sure. Well, one aspect of what I'm doing for my PhD is I'm going to be studying an ancient bird called Confuciusornis, found in China. Confucius.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's a beautiful little bird. And what I'm going to be doing is trying to understand the way its foot worked. So just whether it could grasp, whether it could climb, how it functioned. And what I do is the only way to really have a good idea of what it is to compare it to modern birds, because their feet look pretty dang similar. So I'll compare it to a bunch of different modern birds. And so that's a big intersection there. Something I'd love to get into down the road would be its conservation paleobiology, where you use the past to infer the future, to make connections to the current, going through mass extinctions and understanding that we are, in a sense, in a mass extinction right now. Maybe how we can understand what types of birds will need our protection the most based on past mass extinctions. What kind of animals seemed to have needed the help the most, things like that. And of course, those weren't our doing, but it's still a mass extinction.
Yeah, elaborate on that. So we're going through an extinction right now. Have you read the book Sixth Extinction?
I have not, no.
It's on my bookshelf. I haven't read it yet.
I definitely need to. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, elaborate on the that we're going through another extinction right now.
Well, sure. I mean, we're in a biodiversity crisis of our own right now. We're losing so many species, and it's mostly due to climate change. And yes, the world has experienced many climate events in the past, but they haven't honestly been as rapid as the one that we're seeing today. Even the most extreme of them. The biggest extinction was just before the dinosaurs, actually. It was the one that actually allowed the dinosaurs to flourish, was at the beginning of the Triassic, the end Permian extinction, and that wiped out over 90% of all life on Earth. So 90% of everything was just gone. And we're not at those types of levels, of course. And then the end of the dinosaurs was about 65% of all life. But studying those and understanding why they went extinct, what the climate events were, many of them were actually global warming events, in the sense that the world was getting hotter in some capacity. So we can compare them to the current crisis and understand, maybe look at how, species that inhabited these types of areas, these are the ones that really seem to die off in the greatest amounts. So let's focus our efforts on how we can preserve those right now. Or species like this one, actually did pretty well throughout these. So we could I think we should make sure that we protect as much as we can, but we might not need to focus on XYZ species as much. Because we do have limited resources, limited manpower to protect every species on the planet. So it might help knowing which ones to protect.
How many species do we have?
Oh, God.
Do you know that?
No idea. I know we have about roughly 10,500 species of birds. Just birds.
Just birds.
So
okay.
I can't even tell you. It's probably double or triple that for bugs and insects. I'm actually not
What about
sure.
mammals? Do you know the mammals?
Oh, I'm not a mammal girl. I don't know much about mammals. I'm a bird girl. That's all I know.
What's your funnest fact about birds?
Oh, God, about birds. Well, I love swifts, because there are swifts that migrate up and down. They can go from from Canada all the way back down to South America, and they do the same sort of it's funny, when you're in Europe, you have similar birds that do the exact same thing. They go from the UK down to Africa, so it's like the same thing, just on different hemispheres. These swifts will stay on the wing for up to 4 months and never touch land, never touch the ground for 4 months. They just fly. They fly through the night. They eat, they sleep, they poop, they do everything just on the wing, and it's pretty incredible.
That is
for
really
4
incredible.
months they don't touch Earth. Yeah.
I watched we talked about Prehistoric Planet,
Yeah.
and
I did see some of that. It's great. I haven't seen the second season.
I don't know what I watched. I was on a plane to London,
Gotcha.
and I was going through all the different things.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
It was like everybody told me, "Oh, you should try to get some sleep before you go over, jet lag, whatever."
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't fall asleep right now." What do we got here? Then I saw Prehistoric Planet, and I watched 2 episodes. One was these birds.
Mm-hmm.
It was I don't know the one. It was of the like pterodactyl family.
Sure. So those are the flying reptiles. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're not considered birds.
They
they're
are
flying
not, and they're also
reptiles.
not dinosaurs. Fun fact.
So
those guys aren't dinosaurs
Okay.
either. They're just good old flying reptiles. They're in a league of their own.
And it was narrated by David Attenborough.
Oh, my heart, love that man.
And some great shots. Well, they're not like live shots, but it
Great
was really
CGI.
cool how they had they were up on these like they were born over here,
Mm-hmm.
or they hatched out of these birds in the middle of the water on these big stones.
Yep.
Then they had to get to land and get to the forest, and the video they start off with like 1,000,
Sure.
and they start going, and then predators just snatch them up.
Classic.
And by the end of this sequence, there's like 2 birds that were left.
Oh my god.
Or 2, not birds,
Yeah.
flying reptiles. I was like, oh wow.
Oh, it's tragic. I love that show. It is really fun to think of watching them in nature the way you watch any other David Attenborough documentary. Oh, and you still feel bad for them even though they're just CGI. They're not even real.
Yeah, they talk about how
But-
they talk a lot about this individual, kind of species and what they have to do and blah blah blah. And then they're all like
Dead.
pretty much dead. There's another one with the little sea turtles.
Oh my gosh.
They're talking about the little Tyrannosaurus rexes.
Oh, I did see that one. That's a sweet one.
And then they're trying to get the little turtles that are hatched in the sand, and then they have to get to the water.
Of
so it's
course.
kind of like the same thing.
It is. And of course that still happens today. That whole turtle
Yeah.
fiasco. They're hardy little guys.
Do you ever think about kind of the just nature and kind of the sheer reality / brutalness?
Oh my gosh.
Of it?
All the time. I mean, we kind of just saw very, like you and I sitting here, very, very small scale. A great blue heron came over, and there was a little black-crowned night heron that was doing some fishing, and he's been fishing here all morning. Big old great blue heron came over and just pushed him out of his little fishing spot because he could. He can't compete with that. Now the little heron has to go find somewhere else to fish, and if it's not as good a spot, he won't eat for the rest of the day. Which, gosh, I can't imagine. But it is brutal. I was just talking to a friend of mine about, have you heard of the barnacle geese?
No.
I can't remember right this second where they're located, but they live on cliff sides. They nest on these cliff sides that are 400 feet tall. It's to protect from
Where is
predators.
this?
I wish I could remember right now.
400 feet.
Barnacle
cliffs.
geese.
This rock
I don't
is-
want to get it wrong.
Okay.
But they're born. The babies are born onto these 400-foot cliffs, and when they're born, the parents say, "Okay, now we got it. Now that you're born and you can run away from predators, because they're born pretty able to like walk and run. They can't fly, but moments after they're born, the parents get up and say, "All right, let's go down to the water now, and now we can eat and drink and whatever." So these little tiny barnacle geese that are less than an hour old have to jump down 400 feet, and only 1/3 of them ever make it. Like
1/3? That seems pretty decent.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. These clutches have 3 to 4 eggs, so 1 or 2 of them make it. But these little birds have to take this leap down 400 feet, and most of them don't make it because they splat 400 feet below. But some of them can catch the wind just right, and they are so small they kind of just bounce and make it. But that's brutal. And they just know to do it. The parents say, "Come on, get down here."
Yeah.
And they can't ride on their parents' back. That's not too easy. But
Speaking of brutal, is this rock I'm sitting on?
do you want to
Trying
trade?
to sit on? No. I'm just trying to figure out the best angle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a poem in this Zen garden we have going on,
Yeah.
where it's
exactly.
like trying to find calmness while sitting on an uncomfortable. Actually, I think this is a good.
Good. He just did it again. This great blue heron just came in and scared away the poor little black-crowned night heron. By the way, the black-crowned night heron's the one who has to go back to Central and South America, so he needs to stock up for the journey.
That's always remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Just that they migrate every season.
Incredible. It's truly amazing. They don't need passports or anything. They can just go.
How long do they live?
It very much depends. Certain birds live longer than others. I think birds. There are birds called albatross. They do a lot of migrating as well. Big, beautiful seabirds. They look like seagulls, but much bigger and much more elegant. And they can live. I think one of the older ones right now is in her 60s. And she's one of the birds, I can't remember the numbers right now, but she's flown the most of any bird on this planet that we know of, because she was tagged when she was an adult. But even just with her tagged information, they can see her going across the planet, and she's traveled more than any other bird. You got to look up this albatross. It's a beautiful story, and she's still kicking. She's still flying.
But that's the thing too about these journeys.
Mm-hmm.
You think, oh, the albatross, it's a big bird, it can make that distance.
Yeah.
But no, there's little small birds.
Those little swifts I was talking
Yeah.
about. There's some of they're not the smallest birds in the world, but they're small. They're the little sort of swallows and swifts that you see darting around. Yeah, those guys, they make incredible journeys as well. That's why places like Chicago are so important for birds, because it's a major stopover before they make a big jump across, because a lot of them are going to Canada. So Chicago turns into this sort of this beautiful hub, this stop where all these birds sit. They stock up to refuel before they jump across the lake, and that's why we have so many birds here. My goodness.
We got air horn.
Yeah.
It's quite a unique space to have this in an urban environment.
Yes, I do love. I got my whole start in birding in urban environments. Like, I wasn't going into the middle of forests to find birds, and you don't have to. I mean, anywhere you go, I promise your local park has some birds. You just need to take the time to look. Because I lived in Chicago, like I said, for 23 years, and for the first 20 of them, I could only see pigeons and sparrows. That's all I saw, and I was like, that's why I didn't really care. I was like, I see them. That's all we got here. Wrong. So wrong. There's over 300 bird species in Chicago, and you just need to take the time to see them, to actually look. And sometimes it doesn't even take that much. We're sitting right here, and we've got a whole David Attenborough documentary in our backyard.
It's so perfect for life. It's such a metaphor. It's like you find what you're looking for.
Yeah, get off your phones and look up. No, but of course I use my phones when I'm bird watching. But it is so true, and bird watching is such a wonderful excuse to get out into nature and really look at it. Yeah.
So calm.
It is.
Yeah, this weather is better than yesterday.
Fantastic. And the birds, I'm sure, you wouldn't even want to go bird watching in weather like yesterday. They wouldn't even be out. They're saving up their energy to try not to.
So when it's that hot, they're finding shade too?
Yeah, I mean, they got to go out to do some things. A lot of birds actually regulate their body temperature with their feet, because the way that their blood flows, it goes down to their feet and back up into their body. So they'll stand in the water so that the hot blood will go into their feet and then come back up cold. So if people have bird baths in their backyards, they'll love you for that, for sure. Love you for drinking it too, but it's a really great thing in the summers to have bird baths for them.
So that's why bird baths exist.
Yeah, people, they'll come drink out of it, of course. But yes, I've definitely seen a lot of birds, or they'll use it to literally bathe, get all the oils off from the city.
Huh. I was so determined yesterday. Once when everybody was talking about how hot it was and how hot it was going to be, I'm like, I became so determined to jump in the lake.
And did you?
I did.
Oh, amazing.
So this summer, I live like right on the beach.
Sure.
And I let life just pass me by and just like not
You've never
not fully appreciated it.
Sure.
In a way this summer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this would be a great opportunity to do that.
Oh, good. I'm
so
glad.
then I jumped in and it was so refreshing.
I love it. Oh, it's
my
fantastic.
Gosh. My own little bird bath in Lake Michigan.
Exactly. They're just like us.
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic.
They are. I just got back from a trip to, we have a home in Ohio on Lake Erie. And yeah, it wasn't that hot, but it's a smaller lake, so it stays, it gets warm pretty fast. And it was pretty warm, like jumping in there. But it was perfect for a hot day.
Man.
Yeah.
So what are you excited for coming up, like in the next 6 months?
Oh, well, I start my PhD on October 1st in Cambridge, and it's very daunting, but I'm really excited about it. It's going to be a very interesting next chapter in my life, and something that I've kind of been working toward for my whole life.
What drew you to Cambridge?
Well, the lab that I'm working in is with this professor, Dan Field. And he is exactly what I was looking for in terms of both just a professor, great guy, really, really nice, but also his studies, what he focuses on, is exactly what I want. Everyone in the lab is studying birds, and they're studying paleo birds. Now, a lot of them are studying a little bit more extant, so a little bit more on the modern bird side. But the whole point of his lab, we're in the Earth Sciences department, the whole point is the intersection between paleontology and modern birds. So it's exactly where I want to be. It's exactly what I'm studying as well. So that was the main draw. Once I started hearing this guy's name and what he was doing, what his field of study was, I really wanted to be there for that, because it's exactly what I want to study. And he's also a major birder. Really into bird watching. He's one of the best bird watchers I've ever met. A bird will fly by so quickly, and he can tell you exactly what it was. I'm a lot more. I really have to take a good look at the bird usually.
Sure.
Usually, in Chicago I don't have to as much because I've gotten to know our local birds pretty well.
Okay.
But good Lord, we had a conference in Malaga, Spain. All new birds to me, really. And every bird he just identify immediately. He can identify sounds. It's beyond impressive, and I hope to learn from him, not just on my actual studies, but I hope to learn to become a better bird watcher too with him.
Wow.
And of course, a lot of people in the lab also are bird watchers, so it's just a lot of fun that I automatically
quite a community.
have such a like bird watching, bird crazy community. So yeah, the community is a big part of it. And just, in general. And Cambridge is lovely. I'm so happy to be there. Really nice little town. It's not even that little, but it's a really nice town, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like all the universities in England have this certain architecture.
Yeah. Cambridge is a lot more of what you think of when you think of a sort of classic British town. City. Yeah. It's a city. It's got a lot of people, but I mean, I just say town because it's not London. And even Bristol was a lot more cosmopolitan, really. It had skyscrapers.
Oh, really?
Bristol had skyscrapers and a lot of traffic. And Cambridge just is, I see more bikes on a day-to-day than I see cars, honestly. And it's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Good for you. That's so exciting. It's so exciting, too, to see just someone who's found an interest or curiosity or passion and just kind of followed it.
Yeah.
And to see where it kind of leads you, it kind of just...
Yeah,
it's cool.
I was definitely lucky to develop such an obsession so young, because it has led my whole life where I am today. And yeah, I feel very, very fortunate that I was able to find what I wanted to do so young. Because I don't think you necessarily should, even by my age. I don't think you necessarily have to know what you want to do. I just got lucky that I got so obsessed with something, and that's all I wanted to do.
That's awesome. All right, my last question for you.
Sure.
What's something you're curious about recently?
Ooh, that's such a good question. What am I curious about recently? I have to think about that. Oh, sorry, this guy's coming over. This black-crowned night heron's scooching his way over to us. Oh, I don't know. What am I curious about recently? Sorry, this is gonna take a hot second.
We're in a peaceful place.
We are.
Ooh, it just got a little hotter.
I know, the wind stopped. I guess I'm kind of curious. This isn't really this isn't like focused on any one thing, but I guess I'm kind of curious how people, I'm sure I can look this kind of stuff up on YouTube, but like how people stay focused on tasks. And it's not because I don't think I have ADHD or anything like that, but I know that I do wonder how even I myself stay focused, because it sort of comes in waves. Sometimes I really can get hyper focused and complete something really well, and sometimes not, and it could be for the exact same assignment. And so I just kind of I like watching sort of YouTube about people, their productivity, and how they get the momentum and how they lose it even. And I think everyone's so different. It's kind of just a fascinating thing. And as I go into my PhD, I'm very determined to work hard and do really well at it. But I also know that burnout is somewhat inevitable.
It's just lurking behind every corner.
Exactly. And I've gotten burnout in my wildlife photography. I've gotten burnout. I've gotten it in my interest for dinosaurs and everything, just because you can get too much of a good thing. But my mom always says that, like, everything in moderation. And it's so true that's I guess for me, that is what keeps me motivated. But sometimes it feels weird when I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this thing that I know I love, but I just don't want to do it right now.
Are you talking about like an individual task right in front of you, or just in general of like
I suppose in general. And it's so interesting to me how different people think and how different people focus. I don't know. I like watching exposés and listening to a little bit of psychology here and there about it. It's something so out of my field that I know nothing about. Yeah.
So what are some things you're coming across?
Oh gosh, I really only watch very basic people being like, oh, I set timers, sometimes that works for me, and I just like hearing what other people have to say. Big thing, of course, is like keeping wherever you're working like uncluttered and that kind of thing, which is a little hard. I'm not the most organized, physically organized human in the world, but that's definitely something I want to work on, which will be, I think, very nice throughout my PhD to kind of develop that. It's pretty developed, but to further develop, we're always getting better. We're always learning.
That's right. Great attitude to have.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for meeting up with me today.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure, such a treat.
So nice to meet you in person.
Yeah. Because it's amazing, and it's cool to see what you're doing and learn about what you're learning about. A lot of fun.
Thanks.
So
thank you so much.
Yeah. And glad
I hope you
we were
can
able
enjoy
to
the park a little more after this.
I was just about to say this is, and getting the space knocked off my bucket list.
Perfect.
So thanks again.
No problem. Thank you for having me. This has been so nice.